Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker. Olga Lautman is here, and she's telling me about this incredible thing that she's doing in her personal life, in her private life, but she's going to share it with us tonight. Tell everyone what's going on, Olga. It's a pretty big news.
So I decided it's not breaking news,
It's for
but
me.
but I decided that I need to quit smoking cigarettes, and this time I really want to quit. So I started medicine for it, and by next week I should be smoke free.
That
And
is
that's it.
phenomenal. Congratulations for taking the step, and I'm sure you're going to do it because I can tell you've got the
Yeah,
passion
no,
to
I
do it.
have to. I have no choice. I have to, and I am really gonna push through. The only thing is that I'm like all over the place. I can't focus and I'm like mood swings, but it's okay. I'll get through it.
You can always focus on work because there's so much of it, and you'll be fine. So just focus on that. Um, there's so much going on in the news today, and we'll get to the Trump tyranny tracker in a second. But this one image that keeps floating around, hour after hour on our newscast here is the demolition of the parts of the White House, of the east wing of the White House. I mean, it's kind of remarkable that this image has broken through in a way that somehow all the other stuff that he's done hasn't really broken through. That he really is demolishing the seat of power as we've known it in the United States. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's honestly it's property, but it's so heartbreaking. And out of everything he's doing, I mean, this is the least of what we need to worry about, but it's heartbreaking because it's, historical property. So I saw it and I was just disgusted. I was like, my God, I mean, one, he's letting us know he had no plans on ever leaving. Um, so there's that, that he thinks this is his home, and that he obtained, this property without paying for it. And he's turning it into another Mar-a-Lago. I mean, literally. But it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking and it's disgusting to watch. And,
And just know,
it's something he's going to leave a mark one day. People will look back and say, my God, this
you can
and
just
that was.
imagine him in in this giant ballroom on a throne at the end of it, really running his court, as it were, declaring, orders, just giving people a sense that he is the king. I mean, he's so into this whole idea of being the king that you can actually see him pulling that off in this giant ballroom. But more than that, it's interesting to me that they're trying to cover it up. Scott Bessent, who's the Treasury Secretary, obviously, issued orders to people not to take photographs of the demolition, as if that's even possible. It's such a large scale demolition. But the fact that they're trying to cover it up is also wild. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, own it.
It's a national security threat. I mean, if I am correct and I read correctly and recall it correctly, I think the bunkers are underneath that.
Mhm.
So it's a national security threat. This should not be, out there for everyone to see. And I mean, the least they could have done is during this demolition, um, cover it, you know, because this is it. I mean, you don't think every intelligence agency is like zooming in
Yeah, of
to see
course.
what's there and whatnot. The whole thing is disgusting. Honestly, the whole thing is disgusting. It's heartbreaking, but I mean, we're just gonna have to, to,
I wonder who's doing it as well. When I remember there was a scandal a few years ago at 10 Downing Street where the press room adjoining 10 Downing Street was being redone completely by a few Russian contractors who seemed to have ties back to Moscow. And you could see how this could be the case here too. Who knows who's actually doing the building? And what they did in this case is they wired it, to the press room, so it's got lots of technology and microphones and cameras in it. So they wired it to the hilt. It's just basically a spying facility at that point.
yeah, it's again, everything about it is wrong. Everything. It's disgusting. It's heartbreaking. But we will, I mean, I don't even know where it goes from here. If we ever get our White House back, like, do we demolish that
Well,
hideous ballroom? Like,
I hear the Baron is moving back to the White House, and that made me think maybe Melania is going to be moving back, and maybe that's really why they're redoing the East Wing, is because she wouldn't go back to that, tawdry place as it was before because it was so, it was a bit run down. By all accounts, it needed some renovation, but not anything like this.
No, no,
Anyhow,
nothing like this. And I missed who said it, but yes, Shantix. I'm so excited. They said that they took it and they've been smoke free a year. So this gives
awesome.
me hopes. Thank you.
We're
At
all
least
behind you,
it's for
Olga.
something.
So it's day 275 of the Trump administration, and we're looking at the authoritarian grab that this administration has been doing. Our first story today is Trump vowed to send the National Guard troops into San Francisco, falsely claiming he has unquestioned power under the Insurrection Act. He's insisting that residents want us there, a claim contradicted by local officials and the fact that San Francisco's crime rates have been falling. This threat follows direct calls from Elon Musk and David Sachs demanding military intervention in the city. California state officials are warning that such action would be illegal, but Trump appears undeterred. It's a really interesting story because San Francisco is such a test case for what's going on.
Yeah, and we see Trump more and more discussing the Insurrection Act and invoking it, and you see he's conditioning Americans. I mean, this is typical autocratic behavior, to kind of condition people to something instead of enacting it and shocking America. Slowly do it in steps, keep talking about it, and then eventually, by the time he does invoke the Insurrection Act, people are already expecting it, and you don't have that same outrage as you would if it just happened. And I mean, we're heading towards a very dangerous time because his plan is to occupy all cities. Unfortunately, the appeals court temporarily at least allowed him to do this, which is strange
Portland,
because
yeah.
this is against everything, that the Constitution stands for. You're not supposed to have military operating on U.S. soil, and especially in law enforcement activity. Um, but they allowed it, for him, which worries me what the Supreme Court will do because last week he went to the Supreme Court to ask for permission to be able to use troops in U.S. cities. And that's it. And I mean, basically, he's really very clearly showing us that he's turning this country into a military state.
It's kind of amazing to me that people like Elon Musk and David Sachs are these, gazillionaires that could probably redo San Francisco on their own if they wanted to make such an investment. But San Francisco, while it's got the very low crime rate right now, it has suffered a lot in terms of the this disparity in terms of economic sustainability for people. A lot of the .com moving into San Francisco has meant that a lot of people have been run out of the city. They can't afford to live in the city. That's created a homeless problem that has created other problems in San Francisco. But it's not divorced from the very oligarchs that are calling for it to be fixed. They're the ones responsible for making it like this in the first place.
They're not concerned about it either. I mean, Elon Musk is a troll, and anything that is anti-American, he champions. David Sachs, I mean, since the full-scale invasion in Ukraine, and that guy who I've never heard of, by the way, he was a nobody, and then suddenly started popping up in my feed in January of 22. Spewing Kremlin propaganda. And I was like, who is this? And then I looked into him. And prior to January 2022, never a word about Russia or Ukraine. And clearly, Russia sent him some, a good crypto package. And he made it his job day and night. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. An American so fixated on Ukraine spewing Kremlin propaganda when he has no connections to the region. So clearly something happened there. And of course, for Russia, they absolutely love to see troops across, occupying cities because then all their crackdowns, they'll be like, you see, there's nothing wrong with ours. We're just, managing, whatever, disarray
Dissent.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by these two. And Musk, when was the last time he was in San Francisco,
Right. He was in Texas, I think.
Yeah.
Our next story, which comes from Reuters, has uncovered a secret government operation that sounds dystopian, but is actually real. So the Interagency Weaponization Working Group involves the White House, the DOJ, the CIA, and the ODNI, coordinating what can only be described as Trump's retaliation against perceived enemies. They're targeting people connected to the Russia probe, January 6th, at least the investigations into January 6th, and COVID policies. The group is led by Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Reuters found that 39 officials in the group have direct ties to Trump's election fraud conspiracy and far-right movements. So what is this? This is an actual working group with people from different parts of the security sector?
Yeah, so they disbanded, all the normal task force that are supposed to protect America. And instead we have this insanity where you have a group that is, basically going after the Comeys and the Letitia James. I'm telling you, every week I call it out. Last week I said Bolton is next. This week Brennan is going to be next, the former CIA director. They're going after these people, and this is basically, I mean, it's gross that our tax money is paying for this, as America is being left, in danger. Our national security right now is in danger because literally he has shifted FBI agents to immigration enforcement and running around the streets, working alongside ICE. Every single agency that is supposed to be doing their job, tracking terrorists, tracking, drug trafficking, trafficking, sex trafficking, you name it, cybersecurity, protecting our,
As we
cyberspace.
welcome y'all to sorry. I was just trying to pull up something and I pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Who's that?
Steen. But what I was trying to look up here is, I read today that two of the prosecutors related to the Tish James case were fired for failing to, for not wanting to prosecute Tish James. So we're still seeing that sort of, the purge of loyalists to people who aren't loyal to Trump and people who are, loyal to the Constitution, as they sort of are disappearing from inside the Department of Justice. So it's not just an interagency group here, but it's involving firing people and purging people from the departments.
Anyone tied to any investigation, any probe has been purged. I mean, literally, Trump came into office, I think it was February. I started the tracker in January 20th when he came in. I think it was like the first week of February, and he was already, they were purging FBI officials and civil servants, anyone who worked on any of his investigations or any investigations, his investigations or indictments. So, I mean, they've been purging. They continue to purge now. Anyone who doesn't want to take unlawful orders, they are purging them. So, I mean, this is what he's doing. And on top of it, they're using his shutdown to basically purge more civil servants in order to um replace them with their loyalists. And there's a new directive that came out because he put a freeze in January, a hiring freeze. Now the new directive is that basically the agency heads have to vet new applicants and approve them, and there will be a process for this. So you could just imagine it's going to be, the same extremist. I mean, what we're seeing now, which is a story coming up, Nazi people who admired Nazis and Hitler.
He just has a
So
Nazi streak, just a Nazi streak. It's not, just joking, of course. But we should get to that story because it's a good story. Paul Ingrassia, Trump's nominee to head the Office of Special Counsel, the agency that protects whistleblowers and enforces ethics rules. Ingrassia has been caught sending racist and extremist messages. He called Martin Luther King Jr. Day a holiday that belongs in the seventh circle of hell and bragged about having a Nazi streak. The 30-year-old used racial slurs, mocked civil rights holidays, and declared his admiration for the Hitler Youth. This is a trend now within the GOP. There's a whole group of them that think it's amusing or whatever it is. Maybe they just believe in it, to sharing all this Nazi ideology and their fandom of Hitler.
Yeah, and this they used to be, look, this used to be the fringes. This is what the fringes were a decade ago. And Trump brought them in between him, not hey call condemning David Duke after he endorsed him, between him both siding Charlottesville. And then by after Charlottesville, by like 2018-19, you saw him really bringing in the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, all these anti-government militias, the anti-Semites, the white supremacists, the Christian nationalists, and he welcomed them in, and they overtook the party. So the people like Mitt Romney and, even, my God, Jeff Flake, who now looks
It's like a saint.
poor Liz Cheney,
Yeah.
like these people got pushed out, and this is what the party has become. And the most dangerous part about it is that these people are embedded in our agency. So maybe Paul Ngrazi is not going to make it because it seems that finally Republican senators found,
Yeah, John Thune is saying he thinks he should withdraw, which sounds like he will withdraw.
but even that shows you. I mean, we are now 2 days out after these text messages came out. You don't have Trump pulling the nomination. Vance isn't coming out condemning it. Last week, Vance called 30 and 40-year-olds, the who were part of the Young Republican Party group. He called them kids, like college kids. First of all, I said it last week. I'll say it every day. If my kid, even at 10 years old, ever talks about gas chambers and raping women, I would smash his head. Never mind freaking these are 30, 40 year olds who had government positions still. One was a state senator and whatever. And now we have this coming out. And I mean, and I do the tracker, and I can't tell you how many have already slipped through into the government. And also Ed Martin, who they had to pull him from confirmation and instead put him into another weaponization group um, within the DOJ that they created. And he's pretty much has the same function as this broader weaponization group to go after Trump's enemies. He headlined an event for a Nazi. So, I mean, this is what this government is turning into. And then you have Department of Homeland Security, posting remigrate, a freaking neo-Nazi ideology that is being used by extremist far-right parties across Europe. So this is, I mean, people really need to like take this seriously because we really have a fascist government, and you have the vice president who basically is like, oh well, why should their life be ruined? I mean, what do you mean, why should they be carrying on about gas chambers?
Yeah, it's not just a
Oh,
fascist government. It's a fascist government that seems to be hero worshipping genocidal killers. I mean, it's unbelievable that they are in this day and age espousing Nazi propaganda and Nazi ideology in a country which is up until now never even contemplated anything like that. I mean, it's unbelievable that this is being allowed and that the mainstream and the GOP thinks they can somehow control it because they can't. Clearly, we've seen history teach us this lesson many times. Once these things evolve and they take hold of power, it's very hard to disintegrate them. It's appalling that this is happening.
and we're seeing it in policy. So even if Trump decides to finally pull Ingrassi is a thing, which he might not even because he likes to double and triple down. I mean, like who cares that he likes Hitler, Trump's the one also who apparently had Hitler's book on his night table, according
Right.
to his ex-wife. But even if, he doesn't pull it, we're seeing the policies, so you see these racist tweets, text messages coming out for last week, it was the Young Republicans, dozens of them. This week, it's Angrazia. But you see the racist policies, you see the anti-Semitic policies, and you see, the brutality coming out through domestic and foreign policy. So if this was just, even some kind of sick talk, it's one thing. But we're seeing our agencies carry out
Yeah.
exactly what these people are pushing for.
They keep talking about Christian policy and defending the Christian faith. I mean, it's all sort of hidden into that, is coded into that. Some of this really racist Nazi ideology that they are pursuing clearly, and now it's almost out in the open that they're doing it. I'm glad John Thune has grown a spine and has decided to at least not support
Oh,
this latest application. We'll see actually if it happens. You're right.
we'll
The
see.
other incredible thing that's been happening lately, when you think about the ICE or ICE agency, you think about it as an immigration agency, but they have a 700% increase in weapons procurement, including, get this, missile warheads. Why does ICE need missile warheads? Combined with threats of troop deployment and claims of unlimited presidential power, what is going on with with the administration, and what is ICE preparing for? I mean, is there something we don't know?
I I'm laughing because this is so insane. When I actually read this story, I was like, "What? This sounds like a mercenary group." I mean, it literally sounds like Russia's Wagner group. Is this
Yeah,
what our ICE
it
is?
does.
That they're going to have like missile to air launchers, air to surface to air launchers? I mean, what are they doing? I mean, the fact that they spent millions on this. I mean, it looks like they're going, to battle in with U.S. cities because there's no other reason ICE, which is immigration enforcement, should have weapons, that are used in Afghanistan and Iraq and in, a war zone. So
You know, it's
this
so
is
interesting to
very
me.
troubling.
It is very troubling. It is very troubling because you've got this buildup of operations, but they're also being put in the hands. This ammunition, these ordinances, these missiles that they're buying, whatever it is, are being put into the hands of people who are not trained to use them. In some cases, we're hearing these are prisoners that have been just released early from their prison sentences to take up their positions at ICE. I mean, we're not talking about people with the highest necessarily ethics training. We've seen how they operate in the streets already, and so to give them this kind of firepower as this group is growing. I mean, ICE is going to be a huge force very soon.
Biggest.
Is really terrifying to think about those kinds of weapons in the hands of people who don't have the ethics standards, who might have criminal records, and who are just there basically for the $50,000 signing bonus. And I guess they're having fun with all of this, but it's not. This is not a responsible military group that's being built out here.
That's the troubling part because I can assure you that I don't think ICE in their training undergoes training of how to operate missiles or grenades
Yeah,
or anything in a
nothing like
war
it.
zone. I am pretty sure they do not. I'm sure that they have the same training as law enforcement agencies, which is, running and physical training and, not, and then obviously ethics and whatnot, not how to use missiles or
Yeah.
grenades or other lethal weapons. I mean, this is a law enforcement agency. It's not a military branch.
And
And
what
the
are they going to
fact,
be using it for? I mean, are they going to be using grenades to enter buildings so they can arrest illegal immigrants? I mean, is this what
I don't
we've come
know.
to? That people's like in the city centers are going to hear explosions or missile launches because they are trying to find immigrants? I mean, it makes no
I
sense.
honestly, I don't know, but it is extremely worrying. They're preparing for something because you don't purchase these kind of things. A 700% increase from last year. You don't purchase these kind of weapons I mean, just for no reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they're purchasing it, and I don't know, maybe, one day, maybe you and I will be sitting on our Trump tyranny tracker and a missile will come right through
I
my
mean,
window and just blow me up. I don't know. I don't know what they're planning, but whatever it is, this is not normal. This is something we need to keep an eye on. And you made a very good point. I mean, these people, one of them, there was the video floating around, and then I actually, of course, didn't trust the video and went to verify and found a local news article of the guy who's a federal agent who just got hired, it looks like, driving drunk with his kid. And then on top of it, using asking the police officer doing his job, because last time I checked, you cannot drive drunk, you know, doing his job. Oh, are you a Haitian? This is what they're hiring. I mean, first of all, the police officer is doing his job. Well, it doesn't matter what he is, what nationality, where he came from. None of that matters. And second of all, this guy is sitting and driving, drunk with a kid in the back seat. And then he has nerve to say, I mean, frankly, if I was driving drunk with a kid, which I never would and I never did, but, the last thing then you're going to do is attach, oh, I'm a federal agent. Like, I mean, if anything, you hide this. And this is what they're hiring.
When you add all these stories together, when you add this ICE militarization effort, you add the neo-Nazi stuff we were talking about, the Nazi ideology that's being passed around and that seems to be adhered to by some of these officials. You add that to the interagency group that is going after Trump's enemies. You start to get a sense of a militarized effort to homogenize America and to remove anything that is other, anything that is an enemy of Donald Trump, anything that isn't white and Christian out of our society. And it's not even hard to see how that would happen if
Yeah.
you follow the trajectory of all these things going on, which puts us in a very precarious, difficult spot. I mean, we're not just dealing with authoritarian government here. We're dealing with one that looks like it's got plans to do some genocidal or at least ethnic cleansing type things to our society. We've spoken a lot about this, and I had a great debate earlier on with Lev Parnas about this. But what are we meant to do? Because right now, 7 million people showing up on a Saturday to do No Kings is great. But as you've pointed out many times, if it's not sustained, it doesn't really get anywhere. What if knowing how extremely, what an extreme emergency we really must be in with looking at all these warning signs that are flashing at us, what should Americans be doing right now?
Two things. One, strategically organizing protests that are, a weekly protest, or at least that they're consistent with an ask, with demands. And two, organizing around our state and local officials, because at the end of the day, they're not sending these thugs, and the Reddit, even though they are actually, they're sending these thugs across Idaho and everywhere. But at least we have a say in, blue cities and states and in purple states. So we need to really, really be organizing within our and cities, towns, states, connecting it to other states, and really have a campaign to force our local leaders to do something, because this is not normal. And I don't think people want to see, I mean, really, I don't think people want to be waking up in a war zone. You have Ukrainians who are dealing with this because they have a sociopathic neighbor who, wants to commit genocide, openly states that's their goal. And they don't get any sleep because of missiles and drones and bombs and everything else falling. I mean, I don't think people want this here in their neighborhoods. That you're going to have grenades going off and people running around disappearing people, and you don't even know who it is. You know how dangerous that is. This is what I can't get. Why I think it would be easy to unmask, these ICE agents. You have men throwing on masks, and you've already had a rise in impersonations. What if they start grabbing kids off the street,
Mm.
saying that it's an ICE agent, and meanwhile it's some kind of a criminal, or a predator, or
A foreign army could be anything. It could be any.
it could
We
be
really need.
anything.
Yeah.
And this is why we need to organize against this and really push back on this, because, people keep saying this is Gestapo. This really is. This is exactly what it is. They're building black sites across the United States, throwing people there. We have had more ICE detention deaths this year than almost 4 years of Biden. Under Biden, 24 people died in the ICE custody. This year, 20 so far died, and we still have 2 more months to go. 20 people so far. So they are being tortured. They are obviously, you have, human rights crimes being carried out. And we know they are liars, because let me tell you what happened this weekend with Venezuela, where they struck a boat. They grabbed 2 people, miraculously survived. Here, this regime has been telling us that they're going after traffickers and this is a national security threat and blah, 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 which we all know is a lie. I mean, frankly, I personally think Trump wants the oil fields and the only thing he sees is oil. He doesn't care about drugs, unless he gets a cut out of it and makes money.
Yeah,
But they killed these two people who survived. If he was correct, and Marco Rubio and the rest who are telling us that they're eliminating, drug traffickers who pose a threat to United States, the Navy, who had taken them into custody, would bring them back to the United States to prosecute them for
of
whatever
course.
crime. But what did they do? They repatriated them back to Colombia and Ecuador.
No,
So
it's because
you
it's not
mean
even
to
the
tell,
Venezuelans.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that 1 second they're good, they're terrorists, and you have to throw a missile on them. The next second, oh, never mind, we're not going to prosecute them, so we're going to send them back to their countries. Which
It's
one
such a
is
good
it?
point you're making. It's such a good point. I mean, why on earth would they repatriate people that they were willing to bomb minutes earlier? Obviously, they don't believe that these people were a danger to
No.
the United States, or they would not have let them go back to Colombia or Ecuador. It's a very good point. Just going back to the protests, you've mentioned to me once that what people did in Ukraine was they took shifts, they scheduled shifts to do this. How did that work? Was it online? How did people say, okay, I'm going to be there between 3 and 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'll be, available to do whatever function you need? How did it work in Ukraine on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I mean, you have local Ukrainian organizations who, pretty much like here, how you have Indivisible, but you have them there, and then they're all interconnected, pretty much like Ukrainian organizations here, by the way, because you have Ukrainian organizations, they all like work together, and they're in every single city and town, and they're all work together. So you have these organizations, and then, like people in Indivisible, like for instance, whatever Staten Island chapter, they will have their set of protests, and then someone in the Brooklyn chapter has their protest, someone in Miami, Florida has theirs. And they're within their local groups, even though they are connected. In Ukraine, they're all connected nationwide, but they, within their own groups, organize shifts. So that way, when Maidan happened, people still went to work, and obviously, you have to take care of your kids, feed them, homework, work. But people would take the hours that they are available, and that they would and that's when they would come out. And this is how there you had, starting, what was it, November 2013, you had literally every single night, Maidan Square packed with people. And then, I mean, this is now, we're talking in Ukraine in November, December. This is like dead of
Gold.
winter
Yeah.
where it's beyond freezing. And you had, even by December, like in January, upwards of 1 million people coming out into the square. And at the same time, you had sister protests across the country. But there,
How
they came out with very specific demands.
advanced? Yeah.
These are the demands. We are not leaving until these demands are met. And then the demand shifted, because at first it was the demand, when Yanukovych betrayed Ukraine and started basically moving away from EU integration towards Russia. So the demand was, no, we need this. But then as security forces started getting violent and started, grabbing protesters, beating them, then I believe, what was it, February of 2014, you had them assassinate over 100, sniped over 100 protesters, 100, I think 10 or 12. The demand shifted. Now you have to get out, because this was unacceptable what was happening. But you have to have demands. You have to have, like, this is what we, and reasonable demands, not
Mm.
impeach Trump. No one
Which is
right
what the
now is.
Constitution says. I mean, the Constitution
Mhm.
says that we are entitled to have our concerns redressed, and that's what the government has to do when it's petitioned by the people to do that. That's what the
Yeah.
Constitution is very specific about. Detailing those demands, and then having a response from the government. And if you don't get one, well, then you can move on to other to escalating it. But let me ask you about how important the central place is. Like Maidan Square is a very, it's kind of tailor made for this kind of thing. In the United States, we don't have a Maidan Square. I mean, there's certainly
We do. We
places,
have a million
but
of
where
them.
does is it important to have one place that's there, or is just does that not matter? The place doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you're doing it.
I think it's important to have a symbol. So whatever it is that you're asking, if you're asking for the courts to strengthen and for instance, for the Supreme Court to stop doing its job and rubber stamping, and giving immunity to a sociopathic mad king, then you pick courts as your symbol. And wherever you are, whether you're, in a little town of 10,000 or in New York City, you pick the courts as a symbol, and this is where you meet. If you're, doing it against ICE and, these mass thugs running around and literally acting unlawful and not following the Constitution, then maybe pick something that represents law enforcement. I mean, I said prior, police station, but not in front of the police station.
Right.
Um, you don't want to get arrested.
Right.
But, something symbolic that represents law enforcement. But the thing is that you need to have a clear strategy and you need to have a clear ask and say, we are not leaving. And again, impeach Trump is not an ask. That is not happening. We're never going to get 60 votes in Senate. We're never going to get, hey, called the majority in the House. But to unmask these thugs and have them present ID as any law enforcement officer should, that's a very reasonable demand. And then once you win and have one victory, then you move on to the next thing. And that actually kind of builds that confidence in the movement because it's like, oh, look, we got this. We did this.
Right. So just start with something that's achievable and not too extravagant, and then build your way up as you go through that. Um,
And
that's
it
very
has to be
helpful
a
and
full,
factual
and
and
it
useful.
has to be a full campaign because again, this is not just, coming out where you have like, an organized list of things you want. For instance, like I say, mask with ICE. We don't want masks. We don't want them, hiding their identity, their name. We want to be able, to see warrants and whatever. These reasonable demands. This is your list. This list gets circulated around the country, and then you have people. On one hand, you have people who are in the streets. Doing like protesting. Then you have another group who's doing the social media part. And then you have a third group who dealing with state and local officials and working with them how to strengthen the laws not to allow this to happen. And then you have like another group who is dealing with Congress and, federal agents. So it has to be like, concerted effort and like a strategy around it.
Right. And the important thing is that it's sustained. It doesn't just
Yeah.
go as a once off, that it's continued until demands are met. That's very helpful. Thank you so much, Olga Lautman, who your research into all things about autocracy has been so useful since you started the Trump Tyranny Tracker. Everyone needs to sign up for the Trump Tyranny Tracker at trumptyrannytracker.substack.com. It's where you can get Olga's very detailed look at how the Trump administration is bringing authoritarianism to our country. She does a relentless job every day detailing absolutely everything that the Trump regime is doing. And 40, 50 items a day, I think, is what you put out there. And it's so much.
Yeah,
We only
it's
touch on a
very
few of them here.
detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
wish we didn't have to. I wish this didn't happen and I wish it would slow down, but it's only escalating now. It's getting like
indeed, it is. But all that
darker.
research is so helpful because it's how she's able to gain all this insight, and it's how she's able to provide us with all the insight that she gives us in terms of how quickly this is happening, because it is happening at breakneck speed, but also how other countries and other nations have dealt with this in order to beat back authoritarianism. So definitely check out the Trump Tyranny Tracker and also her other Substack, the Unmasking Russia. What's coming up in the next few days for you? Do you have anything you want to promote?
I'm trying to think.
Your cigarette
I
smoking is
yeah,
what you're promoting.
exactly. I'm telling you, I'm so fuzzy. Like I cannot focus even with working. I'm sitting and trying to work, and I just stare at the page, and I'm like, I've been writing an article all day. I'll give everyone a quick insight. It's about Dutch intelligence scaling back
Interesting.
sharing with us. Intelligence sharing with us. So I've been writing it all day, but my brain is so fuzzy that I'm like, oh, it's okay, I got it. But no,
You're allowed a few
yeah,
days. You're allowed a few days of adjusting here. It's okay.
yeah. What
Jacob
about you? What's
Carsbo, who's
going on?
a Dane. Yeah. What are we doing? I've been writing a lot about Epstein on at narrative.org. There's a story I just put out today about Jamie Dimon and how, the claim that they're making that he didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was a client. And despite years and years of knowing that he actually was a client, of course, because he's lying about the fact that he didn't know that, the bank and then Deutsche Bank basically financed this entire Epstein operation, and it went on for a very long time. And only after he was arrested did they go ahead and do that, follow the suspicious activity reports that they were meant to. So it's an ever growing look at Jeffrey Epstein, his relationship with Donald Trump, his relationship with Leon Black, which seems to have come out into the open again now, the blackmail, the financial crimes. There's a lot on it at narrative.org, narrativ.org. It's where you can find all my work, and I hope people are checking it out. And then we'll be back on Thursday with another Trump Tyranny track, as we do every Tuesdays and
Thursday.
Thursdays at 7 p.m. So thanks for
Yep.
being here. Good luck,
Thank
Olga.
you. Thanks. You too.
We're
Bye,
supporting you all the way.
Oh,
Bye,
thank you.
everybody. Have a great
Yeah, yeah.
night.
I'll get there. I got
You're
this.
gonna get there. We're gonna make sure of it. If you ever need a supportive call, just call me if you ever have the urge to smoke, and I'll talk you off the ledge.
All right.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
guys. Bye.